I started writing fanfiction in 2018, a few months after discovering a YouTube fan-based community on Tumblr, and months after becoming a fan of Jacksepticeye, a YouTube gamer. I've been writing fanfiction for about 3 years now, for several different fan bases, with only 2 that I've adored writing for. The Markiplier and Jacksepticeye communities are some of the most supportive places to be, and the best places to put my writing. Onism is the product of many years of writing. It combines Jacksepticeye fanfiction with the world of an original novel I'm in the process of writing, and brings about character development of an original character, Anton. The basic plot of the story stems from research I had done on quantum phasing, but instead of moving through space and time in our universe, these characters phase between universes. Auntie disappears into Anton's universe and vice versa. The characters then must figure out some way to return home, while also dealing with their own desires. For example, Anton doesn't necessarily want to return to his universe, because he's under arrest on suspicion of causing a power outage in the city, but he is willing to help the other people in the house to get Auntie back. The world of Oblivion is told mostly through interrogation tape recordings, investigating a family's connection to the power outage. The recordings introduce the scene, then narration takes over, bringing a flashback to events that had happened. It's a mystery fantasy, with glances into time theory and magnetics theories. The 2 characters you'll meet in Onism are Anton Bradless, key suspect, and Inspector George Wallace. These 2 don't always cooperate, but this piece may turn things around. The last time I attempted something resembling a crossover was in 2019, when I sent Auntie away into the world of my original work, Honoris Cimmerian. And that got something of a liking. It explored a different view into how Auntie acts, and introduced readers to Juxta, a character I created to be unwillingly cruel. For this piece, I resurrected a couple of characters that I hadn't written about in years, and I again explored a different behaviour. Oblivion was a series I was very proud to write, however my followers on Tumblr barely glanced at the first 2 chapters. I still love this series, and I will not hesitate to return to it. It was a fun experiment in writing styles, and has a promising plot. I hope to put it out in the world one day. Having said all I think I need to as a forward, I'll leave you to the reading. Please enjoy, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. I've been Bookie, and I'll see you in my next video. Oh, and say hi to Anton for me. Tell him I miss him already, and if he could cooperate so he can come home. Or maybe I'll do it, since I'm his author. Bye! The clock struck midnight. It was Halloween night, and the egos were clustered in the living room, wondering what sort of antics would happen this year. Maybe nothing will happen, Jackie suggested, shrugging as 6 pairs of eyes glared at him. What? Just saying. It was Robbie who noticed it first. A slight distortion in the air around Auntie, causing the glitch's static to buzz more. The zombie tugged on JJ's arm, slowly pointing out the distortion to his friend. JJ watched the air for a few seconds, then clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. The air around Auntie looks a little strange, he signed, a little awkwardly because Robbie was still holding his sleeve. The group turned to the glitch, questions in their gazes. Auntie shrugged, causing the distortion to warp the area around him, and he froze in place. Auntie, stay still. We'll figure something out, Chase said, looking at Marvin, who bit his lip and looked away. I've never seen this happen before. I don't know what to do, the magician stated, fiddling with the hem of his shirt. Henrik nudged the magician, irritation on his face. You must know something about space distortions, Marvin. Teleportation, quantum phasing, did you study nothing after the mayhem of a few years ago? He turned to the group, still frowning. I'll do some reading. I'll let you know what I find. With that, the doctor turned and left the room. Auntie looked at his found family through what seemed like a film. It was like standing inside a lighthouse light and looking out. Everything beyond was distorted and unfocused. Every so often, the background changed from the sitting room to some form of interrogation room. Auntie couldn't tell behind the film, and he could barely hear anymore. He lifted a hand to reach for the egos, then felt something cold and metallic press against his wrist, and with a blink, the egos were gone, replaced by the interrogation room. Anton, I need answers here. What answers? I can't see. What are you doing? Stop that. I'm not doing anything. This isn't happening on its own. If I find out one of your brothers did this, like my brothers would help me. Anton, stop what you're doing, or I'll arrest you for failing to cooperate. Who's Anton? What? Who are you? What have you done to Anton? Look, I don't know any more than you do. 1 minute I'm in the living room with the others, and the next... Others? The egos stared at the man standing before them, confusion clear on his face. The man stood slightly taller than Auntie, with bandages wrapped around both forearms, covering what appeared to be burn scars. He wore a dark blue suit, black slacks, and dark green Converse shoes. His green-brown hair hung in a shaggy mop atop his head, some strands falling over dark green eyes. He also had burn scars across his neck and creeping up his jaws, stopping just halfway up his cheeks. The intruder stared at the others, then cleared his throat and looked around the house. Nice place. Beats a prison cell. His voice was hoarse, sounding like he had eaten several buckets of coarse rocks, and the lights seemed to flicker with every blink. Chase was the first to speak. Who are you? Where's Auntie? The man looked at Chase, seeming to be sizing him up before smirking. You remind me of my brother. He paused, seeming to consider the term before sneering. Caregiver. Chase straightened up, squaring his shoulders before asking the question again. The intruder turned to the rest of the group, observing each one before clearing his throat and smiling, an evil glint in his eye. My family call me Anton. You? You can call me Circuit Breaker. Let me get this right. Your name is Antisepticai. Yes. You live with a group of found friends. You don't have to say it like I'm lying. I'm just trying to get the facts straight. Keep trying. Can you try not glitching like that? It's interfering with the recording. Why the... Are you even recording? Look, there was a massive power surge that led to an entire quarter of this city losing power for a month. I'm investigating why. I think your investigation's a piece of... I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. Are you going to help me get back to my family? I don't even know how you got here. Circuit Breaker? What sort of name is that? Jackie nudged Chase gently, fighting back a laugh. The egos had all sat down, Chase and Jackie on the sofa, and Robbie and JJ on the ground opposite them. Marvin had left to find Henrik. It's some kind of villain code name or something, Chase. He's obviously trying to sound dangerous. The lights flickered as Anton clenched his fists, and Robbie crept closer to JJ in fear. The dapper man wrapped an arm around the zombie to comfort him, looking at the flickering light bulb with caution. Anton had sat himself in the armchair near the kitchen, legs hanging off an armrest, with his back against the opposite armrest, and was picking at his bandages before looking up at the egos through his fringe. It is some kind of code name. The cops gave it to me. He snorted, shaking his head. It was stupid, but now I kind of like it. He scratched at the scars on his neck, and Chase instinctively reached forward to stop him before pausing. Anton stared at the father, a smirk on his face. You want me to stop scratching? He swung his legs off the armrest, leaning forward and into Chase's space. It feels like something's crawling all over my skin, prickling every cell in my body. It feels like there's something pulling on every inch of skin, stabbing electric nodes into my arms and body. It burns, like I stood too close to a fire, and it's also cold. And it itches. I scratch and it does nothing. I want to tear my skin off, but I can't feel my own skin anymore. All the nerve endings got burned off in the accident. He leaned back, returning to resting sideways in the chair. Do you know how that feels? When Chase shook his head, Anton smiled again. It feels powerful. Nothing can hurt me, because I've already been hurt. Jackie leaned forward, clearing his throat. You mentioned an accident? Anton frowned, leaning back and returning to scratching his arms. I worked as a janitor at our local surveillance company. One night, during a storm, the circuit room down the hall short-circuited, and of course, I decided to check it out. I don't remember much, but when I woke up, I was in a hospital and the nurses had told me my brother brought me here wrapped in burning wires. He shrugged. Something in those wires gave me power. I can do whatever I want. A pause. Maybe I did cause the power outage. Henrik walked into the room, pausing as he noticed the newcomer, and frowning as he realized Auntie was missing. What did I miss? Chase caught him up, and the doctor quietly moved to Anton, crouching beside him and looking curiously at the bandages on his arms. My name is Dr. Henrik von Schniepelstein. May I look at your arms? Anton looked at the doctor, then sighed and began to unwrap his arms. My cousin Henry wrapped them. He's a good doctor, he stated, and presented his burned arms for Henrik to see. Schneep examined the arms, jumping as small pulses of static zapped him. Your cousin treated these wounds? Anton looked uncomfortable, turning away. Henry was busy with other stuff when this happened. Some nurses at the hospital treated them. I think something went wrong, he replied, motioning to the haphazard stitching, scars, and strangely healed skin on his arms. Schneep frowned again, running experienced fingers along the scars. Anton watched him, furrowing his brows as if in concentration. Was there something that went inside your arms? Wires, cables, Henrik hummed, leaning back. They tried to cut them out, but I think the electricity of the wires may have reacted to the scalpels, hence the stitching, he concluded, motioning to the scars. Hen, we were wondering how Anton got here. Do you have any ideas? Chase asked, directing the doctor's attention back to the absence of Auntie. The good doctor nodded, standing and addressing the occupants of the room. I may have a theory as to why Auntie disappeared and Anton appeared here. As he spoke, the lights in the entire house flickered, then the light bulbs all blew, plunging the house into darkness. So you're an inspector? Yes. Investigating a power outage? More or less. And suddenly, your prime suspect disappears. Correct. Replaced with me. Mentally unstable, glitchy demon. I assume so. What are you going to do about it? I have no idea. So you're saying that some form of phasing swapped me with your friend? Anton's voice was heavy with disbelief, and he stood from his chair to walk to a window, looking outside before closing the curtains. Yes, Anton. We've been investigating quantum technology since the day Chase found himself on the roof at a hospital. It's not a senseless theory, but it fits what you described to us, Schneep replied, resting his elbows on his knees as he sat beside Chase, small notebook in his hands. Now, is it possible to turn the lights back on? The living room was illuminated by candlelight, and Chase leaned forward to relight one of the candles that had gone out when Anton got up. The guest huffed, crossing his arms against his chest. This thing I do, it isn't on command. I can't just make the lights turn back on, and it'll be dawn in another hour. As he spoke, waving an arm, the kitchen lights turned on. See? Not on command. I don't even know what makes it happen. I might. Everyone turned, seeing Marvin's silhouette in the doorway. The white of his mask reflected the candlelight, and he walked into the room, sitting in Anton's now deserted chair. Anton, right? I'm Marvin. I deal a little in magic, but I've never dealt in magic like yours. Anton's eyes were wide as he looked at the magician, who had offered his hand to shake. My cousin's name is Marvin. He thinks he's a good magician, but his attempt in necromancy brought 2 people into our lives from the past, he whispered, reaching forward and taking Marvin's hand in his own. Nice to meet you, Anton. I stay away from necromancy, especially after the incident, he muttered, looking over at JJ momentarily before shaking his head and looking back at Anton. I think it's magnetics, specifically electromagnetic energy, that makes your powers work. I can't let you speak to the other suspects, Auntie. Do you have any other name besides Auntie? Auntie's been a nickname for years. I can barely remember my name anymore. Why are you not in our records? My family talks about parallel universes. Maybe I'm from a different universe. Look, for the records, I need to have solid, sensible information. Hey, this is sensible information. Don't you tell me that Marvin and Schneep's theories are fake? All right, calm down, please. I didn't mean to offend you. Like hell you didn't. Just cooperate with me. The sooner we figure things out, the sooner I can get home. I know, you keep telling me that. I had started to make breakfast, watching the sun rise over the horizon. So you can't speak? At all? JJ shook his head, signing to Robbie, who translated to Anton. He says his voice didn't come with him here. Anton chuckled at the translation. causing the coffee machine to stop and restart, which made Marvin and Jackie yell in frustration. You know voices aren't sentient, right? It was probably some mispronunciation in the spell that brought you here. My cousin was big on pronouncing his spells right. JJ paused, then signed to Robbie again. He doesn't think a spell brought him here. Anton frowned, raising an eyebrow. Then what do you think brought you here? JJ shrugged, and Anton left him alone, lost in his own thoughts. Anton, we think we might know how to send you back. The guest looked up, staring at the magician. Really? Marvin nodded, moving to sit opposite Anton. I could cast a spell to make a sort of portal, and hopefully that will switch you out with our Auntie, he stated, eyes shining with excitement. Anton nodded, then tilted his head, leaning back in his chair. How can you be sure I want to go back? What did that Marvin say about this case? It's classified. It's not like I'll tell anyone. Still, it isn't your case. Well, how am I supposed to get back home if you won't even let me know if the magician of this world could send me back? I never told you he'd send you back. But he could. I don't know, Auntie. The Jones and Bradless families are quite private about their habits. But Marvin can bring people from different points in time. I guess. I'm really not sure. Wait, how do you know that? I checked the digital files on the case when you left for coffee. How did you do that? I'm a glitch. I travel by technology. So couldn't you just send yourself back? Different universe, different technology. Huh. Yeah, it's actually quite a pain to get through your files. What do you mean you don't want to go back? Anton was reclining sideways in his chair again, staring lazily at the ceiling. I mean, they've got me in an interrogation room for causing a power outage I don't even remember. Why would I want to go back? He looked down as Robbie gently took his hand. They are your family, Anton. Don't you want to go back to your family? The guest scoffed, pulling his hand away. My brothers literally have a custody arrangement for me. They've designated weeks to keep me at their house because they can't stand me. I barely talk to Chase, and Jackie only copes with me because he's out of the house half the time. Trust me, nobody would miss me over there. But we'd miss Auntie. He looked at the zombie, biting his lip at the lonely expression on his face. Anton looked around at the similarly lonely looks of the egos, and his face softened. You guys actually care about Auntie, don't you? Chase nodded, holding his signature cap in his hands. He may be a demon, and he may have tried to kill us on several occasions, he started, motioning to Schneep and JJ. But he's family. He's our demon to deal with. We can't let him just disappear. He's like a pet that's dangerous in the wrong hands, Marvin continued, looking down at his own hands with a small smile. We're the right hands to look after him. Anton considered the statement for a while, occasionally glancing at the worried faces of his hosts. Eventually, he swung his legs back over the couch, still sitting facing the others. Marvin, what sort of magic would switch us back? I need to take this call. Don't go anywhere. I won't. Alright, Auntie. Turns out the call was... Auntie? As sunset crept across the house, the egos surrounded Anton. So you know the deal, right? The guest rolled his eyes, crossing his arms as he nodded. Sure. Help you get your friend back, and you'll try to keep me here. Chase frowned, shaking his head. We didn't say we'll keep you here, he started, gasping as Anton's hand grabbed his neck, pushing him against the wall with eyes alight in rage. You will keep me here, or I won't help you. Schneep rushed forward, reaching to stop Anton, then jumping back as static electricity shocked him. Let him go, Anton, he ordered, watching a small electric current surround from Anton's hand to Chase's neck, slightly shocking the father. Not until you promise to keep me. I won't go back. Jackie moved forward, keeping his eye on Chase, who was shaking slightly from the shocks. Let Chase go, and we'll figure something out. His compromise was cut off as the lamp beside him blew its bulb, pushing the hero back with a force so strong he was knocked unconscious. I won't go back, Anton panted, the force of his power draining his energy. The remaining egos watched in horror as Chase stopped shaking, skin going pale as his eyes rolled back in his head. Anton dropped Chase, and the lights went out for the second time. You need to get me back home. Why? Why is it so urgent now? Something feels wrong. Can't you feel it? Something's gone wrong. I don't feel anything. You need to get me back. Auntie, I can't do anything. In a few hours you can go free. That's too late. I need to leave now. I can't help you. You're useless. I'm useless. You're not. I'm useless. There was a clear division in the living room. Anton stood near the window, occasionally glancing outside to peer through the night, and the egos gathered around Chase and Jackie's unconscious bodies, forming a human shield in defense. What have you done? Schneeper held his fingers against Chase's neck, trying his hardest to find a pulse. They're not dead. There's no heavy burns, Anton replied calmly, absently scratching at his arms. I'll tell you when they're safe, thank you, Schneep replied, looking to Marvin for assistance. The magician shook his head, unable to rouse his brother, and returned the doctor's helpless gaze. With a deep breath, Marvin stood and glared at Anton. If you've killed my brother, I'll kill you, he stated, wind picking up around him from seemingly nowhere, and hands beginning to glow green. Anton smiled at the show, tilting his head in amusement. And how do you propose to kill me? Circuits couldn't kill me. Marvin stepped forward, eyes glowing green as balls of green fire hovered above his hands. You don't want to know, but I will destroy you, Circuit Breaker, he responded, holding a ball of fire dangerously close to Anton, the cold burn of the flames making the guest's eyes widen. Fire won't hurt me, Anton attempted, voice wavering slightly as Marvin held the ball closer. Marvin, killing him won't help your brother. The doctor's voice cut through the tension, and the magician closed his eyes, extinguishing the flames and halting the wind. He turned and headed back to his brother, holding his hand tightly. Anton glanced outside again, watching the moon rise in the sky. It was almost midnight. Looks like we missed Halloween, he chuckled, frowning when nobody reacted. You're a fine bunch. What the hell is going on now? I don't know. What does it feel like? Like when I was moved here, I guess. Do you think maybe it's happening again? I guess. I don't know. The phasing had started again, and Anton shivered as the strange feeling washed over him once more. He had crossed the room in a flash, and was holding Marvin by his shirt to glare at him. What have you done? The magician shook his head, clawing at Anton's hand in an attempt to get free. I didn't do anything. I'm not doing anything. Let me go. Anton gripped the shirt tighter, pulling Marvin further into his personal space. You're doing something. Stop it now or I'll kill your brother. Schneep was pulling at Marvin, eyes narrowed at Anton. He's not doing anything. You can't kill an innocent man for nothing. He paused, stepping forward to look the guest in his eyes. It looks like what happened when you arrived. Maybe this is time. His guess was cut off as Anton pushed him aside, shaking the magician. Figure out how to stop it. I won't go back. The magician dropped to the floor, hand against his chest, when Anton disappeared. Beside him, another body fell, cursing as his arms buckled. He shook his head, static crackling around him as he moved to stand up, and Marvin caught a glimpse of his scarred neck. Auntie? For the first time in years, the magician was glad to see the glitch. Auntie looked down at him, offering a hand before flopping onto the couch. You will not believe where I was, he stated, looking each ego in the eye before promptly falling asleep. JJ watched the glitch sleep, reaching over to pull a blanket over his shoulders. Robbie gently tugged his arm as he noticed the dapper man silently chuckling. What's so funny, Jamie? JJ looked at the zombie, then raised his hands to sign his answer so the others could see. I think the demon is relieved to see us. The others laughed, stopping when they heard groans from the wall, and turned to see Chase and Jackie waking up. Chase was rubbing at his neck, wincing at the numb pain he still felt. Jackie was holding his head and fixing his hearing aid in with his free hand. He looked to the couch, and a look of relief crossed his face as he recognized Auntie. We got him back, he said, smiling before standing beside his brother, patting his belt as Marvin looked at him questioningly. I thought the device might short-circuit if I touched Anton with it in, so I had it in my pocket the whole time, he explained, laughing as the magician wrapped him in a tight embrace. Oh, it's you. And who else would I be, Anton? I thought maybe you'd have given up. On you? Never. Now, Anton, tell me what happened to you. You wouldn't believe me. I spent the whole day with some strange creature named Auntie. I think I can take it. I spent the day with Auntie's family. Really? Yes. Would you like to tell me about it? It won't do anything for the power out case. I know, but it will fill out Auntie's case file. You're an idiot. How? You made a case file for a person from another timeline. At least people will know about him if whatever happened happens again. Good point. Tell me about your day, and then we'll go back to the case. On one condition. I can't promise. Don't tell the others what happened. I can do that.